Things have been growing like crazy here on the farm, so it is time for another garden tour. Is there a mousey in there, Bo? Is there mousies? Is there mousies?
Yeah. You see this natural element.
When we planted the herb garden last year, the plan all along was to space the herbs so that they could grow bigger. It was pretty sparse last year, especially because everything was completely dead after we moved it. But things are starting to fill in. Like, I can definitely see that in 2 years' time, this will be nicely compact, and that'll help keep the weeds down. We did do some plantings of some annual things in here just to fill in space this year. I planted some calendula, some basil, other little things like that into anywhere I saw a gap in this garden. And the plan is when those fill in, there won't be bare ground. Hopefully it'll help to keep the weeds down and it'll make it beautiful. We've already started to get some of the flowers.
Look at this onion. The power of onions.
One thing that's an annual that is a total beast in the garden is borage. This plant will get massive and fill in and smother out any space. And it also produces these really pretty blue edible flowers. So this is great for pollinators, but it's also going to be great for us to be able to pick and have some edible flowers in our market produce. So come tomorrow when I'm doing up my bags of salad mix, I'll be out here picking all these flowers off for the market.
We're gonna have lots of seed from the sea kale to try and germinate this year.
Our Comfrey plant has finished flowering. It's always so beautiful, but at that point, you know, now it just gets so leggy. What I need to do is come in here and just hack this all back, because one of the main things that I planted in here this year is a bunch of chives. I didn't actually have any, you know, purple flowering chives, so I started up a complete tray of them. I filled in this whole section in the hopes that come next year I'll actually have some chives that I can pick, some chive blossoms to do other things with, but not if Comfrey smothers it. So this is on the to-do list.
I see evidence of the breakfast of champions. A discarded coffee mug and lots of ripe strawberries.
There is so many strawberries right now. I did a pick and I got 3 big massive bags in the freezer ready to hide until the winter if I can keep my kids out of them. But even so, the kids can come in here, spend all day, eat their fill. There's so many strawberries, which no complaints. That's amazing. I'm hoping today to get another pick and do up some strawberry jam. But this part of the patch here is ever bearing, so these are going to keep going all season long. So there's going to be lots of children's meals provided out of this strawberry patch. I literally made a video saying not to do this, but I planted Jerusalem's artichoke into the ground here. We have so much space and I didn't plant very much. So this is the Jerusalem's artichoke popping up. This Ian weeded out once already in the spring because he didn't realize that.
No, I didn't.
Anyways, it got ripped out, but it's coming back. It's coming fairly strong, and I think there's a good chance that come fall we'll have a little bit of a harvest. And I think as long as I stay on top of it, I should be fine. But these, you know, they're what, 2 feet tall now, but they are gonna get like 8 feet tall over the next month. So this is gonna be chaos soon, and I'm excited. This potting shed greenhouse gets very, very hot. It wasn't necessarily for growing. The plan all along, you know, especially with our shelves that we put in, is this was gonna be a space for the spring, in the fall, that we could do seedlings. You know, it would keep them sheltered, but it wouldn't be so hot. But I figured I might as well experiment, and I filled the entire bottom of the sides of the greenhouse with like a mountain of compost. And one of the good things about compost is it holds the moisture really well. So I planted cucumbers, cucamelons, loofahs, that kind of stuff in here. Because if they don't produce, it's fine. There's no consequences to it. We have no plans to sell that for the farm. And then with the compost, maybe these things will be able to survive the heat. They like it hot, so it's gonna get hot. It gets like 50 in here at the hottest that it gets. So 50, what is that? Like 120. So we'll see. They might make it. They're happy so far.
Dizzy yet?
This section here is our family vegetable garden. In here I planted the things that were either for the kids or that I don't have very much hope for. I'm horrible at growing anything in the brassica family. We get aphids really bad in Kelowna. I don't have to deal with a lot of pests, but the aphids just make it so nothing actually survives. But this year I'm experimenting with some cabbages, some broccoli, and some cauliflower. And so I planted that all up here in the family garden. You know, keep any pests that get into it away from the farm and see how it goes. You know, if I get a couple heads of cabbage and a few shoots of broccoli, I'll be happy. And then I killed off my entire tray of Cape gooseberries. So I didn't have any to sell, but I was able to salvage about a dozen of them. And so I planted them up here for the kids. The kids were absolutely obsessed with them last year. So I could never have too many of these. So an entire row should keep them somewhat busy. And then we're obsessed with zucchini or summer squash. So I did a whole row in here because you can never have too many. And then this guarantees that if we pick everything out of the farm to sell, then we still have a section for us. Only us, no sharing. I also have some greens planted in here. I have some Swiss chard and some kale and some collards. These are tomatillos, which I've never actually grown before. I started them last year, but I didn't keep any for the move. So I'm excited to see what I can do with those. And then the garden I have surrounded by calendula and then nasturtiums on either side. So it's already looking really pretty, and come summer, I expect it to just be kind of this mound of green with this flowers circling it, and it's gonna be fun. It won't be long now till the cherries are ready, and we are very excited. The cherries were ready when we moved in last year, so we didn't actually get to do very much preserving. We're just so busy with the move and trying to sell the house and transplanting everything over. But this year I want to definitely devote, you know, a good week of picking and pitting and freezing or drying cherries. We would gladly eat cherries every day. So we will produce enough that if I can preserve them, we will be able to eat cherries every day. We just have to give it the time, and we will definitely be eating buckets and buckets of these fresh. Beside the vegetable garden, we also have a row of cherry tomatoes. My kids are as obsessed with tomatoes as I am, so making sure I have some tomatoes inside the fenced area is really important for being able to distract them from the farm this summer. Our 500 square feet of walking onions that I planted last year got sprayed with white paint when we did the greenhouse, and so we weren't able to pick and eat any of them. They're kind of, you know, you don't want to be eating paint. But I now have so many seeds for next year, and all the bulbs that are in the ground here will grow back again next year into the walking onions that I can pick as green onions. So I have so many walking onions, which, you know, I'm obviously excited about. I'm obsessed with walking onions, but maybe I will have to start an online walking onion seed business after all. The raspberries that we transplanted last year, a good number of them didn't make it, but we are getting some growth coming up this year. There is some roots that survived in the ground, so in a couple years we'll have something in here. But till then, I planted a row of purple Brussels sprouts in between this year. Brussels sprouts you don't really pick until about October, November around here. You let them get a good solid frost. So it's gonna be fun to see these grow up tall and then bulb up. I've never grown purple Brussels sprouts. I think they're gonna be really beautiful. The one last food thing that we have planted up here is another row of tomatoes. This is important to me because what I have planted in here is one of every single one of the Wild Boar Farms tomato plants. So I can do a side-by-side comparison on all the plants right beside each other really quickly. I don't have to go hunting through my greenhouses and my farm tomatoes to find the varieties. They're all just right here. This is gonna help me to assess what I really like, what I don't like, and what obviously all of you need to grow. I'm still super excited about these. I can't wait to see the fruit. My mom got dahlia obsessed with me this winter, and she ended up buying me a bunch of dahlias anytime she saw them, and then I ended up buying dahlias anytime I saw them. So this is part of my dahlia garden. This is where I planted all of the dinner plate dahlias. They're the ones that get like the flowers that are just massive, and I'm really excited to see what I can do with these. I suck at flowers, but I don't necessarily want to suck at growing flowers, so this is where I'm gonna put a little bit of effort in. I'm really hoping to get some really beautiful showpiece flowers. This will be my posing. I'll stand here and then have all the flowers behind me.
Hey Serina, if you want to put some effort into it, why don't you weed it?
One of the most neglected areas of the property this year is my flower garden that I planted last year. This is where I transplanted all my shade plants, like my hostas and my hellebores and all the flowers that I had on my property. It all went into here, and as you can probably see, I then proceeded to completely ignore it, and now it just looks like a meadow because it has, 4-foot tall grass. But we're gonna put some work into here as soon as we've gotten caught up on everything else. We have a pile of wood chips over here, a bunch of cardboard. The plan is we're gonna weed this all out, lay down cardboard, wood chip mulch, and then hopefully that'll keep the weeds down for, until next year type thing. And this can get a chance to actually get a little bit of life into it.
That's where things get good. Right?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was good up there too.
Yeah, but now it's all like, farm styles.
Behind me is the flower farm. This is my 1,000 square foot of flowers that I put in with the hopes that I'd be able to get some stuff for doing cut flowers. It all was growing so slowly. A bunch of this was either seeded in the beginning of May or transplanted in mid-May, and then it just kind of sat in the ground. I think some of my transplants, they just didn't get planted out soon enough, and so they got stunted. But things over the last week or two have started to bounce back a little bit, and it's putting on some growth. The basil is starting to get leggy, which I want, that because that specific basil I'm doing as long stems into bouquets, so it's doing what I want it to do. My bed of amaranth here, it started to grow. This stuff, I've grown it before, it goes crazy, so once it gets established, it doesn't need too much more.
The weeds are everywhere.
One of the sections I'm really worried about is my cosmos and my zinnias. These zinnias here, these are actually doing quite well. They're quite healthy, so I'm not too worried about these. But the issue is I'm getting flowers already, and these plants are just short little stumpy plants, which would be fine if what I wanted was pretty flowers in my garden. What I want is big, long stems to be able to cut to make bouquets. If, I have a flower that grows just on here and I have this much stem, there's nothing I can do with it. So at this point, I've been coming through here every 2 or 3 days and picking off flowers, picking off buds when I can see that they're about to open, just trying to get the plants to put more energy into growing bigger. Zinnias will go for a long time. Fingers crossed, I've heard. I know nothing. So I'm hoping that snipping off these early flowers, I'll still, you know, in a couple weeks from now, be able to get some usable cut flower stems. But, you know, if not, I know for next year. I can say at least that when I'm picking the flowers off, they're super beautiful. They're really pretty. And I have brought in a couple like little mini bouquets that are, you know, just a couple inches tall of my cosmos that have started, and I'm enjoying them. So at least I will enjoy them, at very least, even if I can't make any money on them. Beside the flower farm, we tilled up a strip and we planted in some potatoes here. So the potatoes are getting pretty tall. They're actually fairly happy, which makes me happy. Fresh potatoes are one of those things that you don't realize how good they are until you grow them yourself. You know, potatoes aren't necessarily my favorite thing, but to go out and pick a potato and to boil it and eat it right away it's really tasty. My other random strip, just on the other side, is I planted out one of every single one of the squashes that I started. So I think I have like 25 squash in here, because I bought way too many because I wanted to experiment with them all. But they're all doing great. They're growing like crazy, and they haven't started to take over stuff. This is like majorly overplanted, but my thinking was that the squash, as they start to vine and get all crazy, they'll grow into the garlic, and the garlic's probably going to be finished in about a month. So when we rip the garlic out, the squash can stay, they can take over that space, and they'll kind of act as like a living mulch for the garlic until it gets done. And then I have a row of sunflowers, and these sunflowers are getting really close to starting to flower. So I'm really excited. The sunflowers that I bought are like a cut flower sunflower, but they're a mix. So I don't actually know what's in it. So it's a surprise for me to see what they're gonna look like. The garlic is starting to get really big. The scapes have set on them, and so we've been picking those and eating them, and we had them at the farmer's market last week, and we'll have them again this week too. The garlic suffered a little bit from lack of water this spring, but it seems like it's bounced back, and I pulled ahead and it's not forming cloves at all, so it's nowhere close to being ready, but it was a pretty good size for how early it is, so I don't think that I'm gonna have completely lost our garlic harvest. I think we're gonna have a really good substantial garlic harvest this year. We planted 500 heads of garlic, so it's gonna be fun to pull it all up and have this mountain of garlic come you know, end of July when we usually harvest. The seeds. Yeah, the seeds are pretty. We finally have all of our tomatoes planted. Yay! Everything's planted, but the job that we've been working on now is getting everything trellised. So in here we have 2 beds of tomatoes. We've done them up with a trellis. That is just a piece of fencing that we found, and then we're gonna weave the tomato plants up through it. And then we have some strawberries that we planted in here, and they're doing great. These are me and Ian's strawberries, and all the strawberries up at the top are for the kids, because kids don't know these are down here. So we actually get some strawberries this year, which has been amazing. And then I also planted in some of my leftover cauliflowers. I have all these really cool colored cauliflowers. I had an orange cauliflower and a purple cauliflower and a Romanesco, which like does this like fractal thing. So this is all the cauliflowers planted in here. It has done nothing. They're the saddest looking plants ever, but I'm crossing my fingers that they'll actually produce something kind of in a little bit here. And then I will have some super cool, braggable cauliflowers to show everyone. We were bragging in our last video about our 3rd greenhouse being up and completed, but it's obviously still worth more bragging. All the tomatoes, we need to get these trellised. Ian was talking about working on that today. But the eggplants, the peppers, everything seems to be fairly happy in here. They are greening up, they're looking a lot happier. This stuff needed to get transplanted like a month ago. It is stunted because of it, but this soil, we did some work on it. There's compost in here, we put some fertilizer. Things should be happy, and then we should be happy because with landscape fabric, that'll keep the weeds down. This should be high production, lowish effort, is the plan. We still have a bunch of our strawberries left over from doing our seedling sales, but we put a listing up online about these and they've actually started to sell a little bit. The plan all along was that when the plants had ripe fruit on them, oh, it's so ripe, it fell off.
It's actually not that bad.
Oh, it broke off. When they had ripe fruit on them, they'd look really exciting and people would want to buy it. And so far that logic has been working out. The ones that we brought to the market last week sold. People are grabbing the plants that have the ripe fruit on it as the ones they want to buy. So I feel confident that we're gonna get pretty close to selling all of these this year. And then in here, this is like actually completely finished. We've totally trellised it. This is our cherry tomato greenhouse. I also have all of my seedlings that need to get watered in here just because I can water them when I water the tomatoes. These plants have been in the ground the longest and they're really happy. The Juliets have full-size fruit on them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start ripening once we get some heat again. It's been rainy last couple days and not really gonna do much with this kind of weather, but it really won't be long, like a week and a half probably till ripe fruit. But yeah, all of these plants are looking super happy. Everything is glad to be in here. And this, we put a ton of compost down, and so far the weeds haven't been too bad in here, so I'm pretty happy. These are the last of my seedlings, and what these are is these are perennials that I started for myself. I have some like yarrow and some echinacea and some rudbeckia. So these are all perennial flowers. I have them potted up into bigger pots. And then sometime in summer, when I get a moment, I'll figure out where to put these, but I have no idea. But I have a couple hundred of them, so it makes me happy. This is my next round of lettuce that needs to get planted into the farm, but we have so much lettuce to sell that I need to sell lettuce before I can even put these in. I've not killed anything, which is kind of amazing. The last week and a half, my job has been weeding. This was an insane mess, but I probably only have about an hour left till it's to the point that I want it to be at before I start weeding up in other sections. You know, I can actually see my plants again. I've also been working on emptying out beds. This bed's empty, this bed needs to be empty. This bed had bok choy, and you can see these plants that are growing here. These are kohlrabi, and when I saw that the bok choy was starting to go to seed, I interplanted these kohlrabi, knowing that as I pulled them out, these could start growing. And it's working pretty good. This is my main bed of kohlrabi, and at this point it's ready. Like last week at the market they were still baby heads, but this is a good size head, and we've been eating them. They're really tasty. But I think that in the next 2 weeks, as I harvest this out and sell this, the other bed will be ready, and so I think I'll have a good succession of the kohlrabi. I think it's gonna work out well. This is another bed that needs to get stripped out and replaced with something. We have some sort of root maggot, and this is all turnips, and it got just destroyed. I think they maybe came in to the bok choy. The bok choy ended up having some sort of maggot that was eating it at the base, and I think it then jumped over into my turnips. So none of this is sellable. But rip it out, put something not cabbagey family in, and I should be fine. You know, I'm thinking maybe I'll put another planting of squash, or maybe I'm gonna put in some bush beans for us. So I have lots of options in here to still salvage this for the rest of the season. And I got some beets, and then my favorite, my most exciting part is my lettuce. It looks so good, and it's really, really tasty. Oh, there's someone here.
Somebody just pulled into our driveway to pick up some strawberry plants, and it's starting to rain a little harder as well, so I'm gonna make this quick here to finish up. Serina had to go talk to those people. So lettuces, kales, chards, squash, basil, carrots, there's some more choys, radishes, more tomatoes with trellising back here. There's lots of good stuff coming out of here. We're really excited about all this stuff. And I think that's flowers. I don't know what that is. But thanks for coming and checking it out. Everything looks really cool here right now. We're not used to rainy weather so much. It's kind of deserty here. So this is a rainy day that we will treasure, because come the end of June, we may not see more rain for 3 months. It's kind of, you don't really see rain for those July, August, September months in Kelowna. So we are out enjoying the day, and we hope you get outside and enjoy your day too. Thanks for watching the video. Hit subscribe if you want to see more, and yeah, you really should do that, because we're going to do lots of cool stuff this year. Thanks a lot. Bye. How did you get it in this?
It was just in here.
So,
And there's Bo circling around?
Yeah.
so
Bo might have dropped him in there.
Bo probably did.
yeah, it's so cute and looks lucky.
He doesn't look injured at all.
No, but he's peeing on stuff, so he's scared.
Yeah, he's freaked out.
We should...
Yeah.
Oh, how did you manage to get a mouse in there? How did you manage that? Wild man. See you later, buddy.